What's up, you guys? Void here, coming back at y'all with yet another patron requested deck tech. This time we're going to be doing Werewolf Tribal for one of my patrons, Knight's Oath. Now, if you're unaware, Werewolf Tribal is a pretty tricky thing to do in Commander just because the only legendary werewolf we have is Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, and he's not very good. He's very simple. He's much better as one of the 99, but as a commander, he doesn't really do anything spectacular. He just gives +4/+4, and that's not very special. So instead of that, we're going to go with Samut, Voice of Dissent. If you don't know what she does, she is a human warrior from Amonkhet, absolutely no ties to Innistrad, so for flavor purposes, it's an epic fail. But every other utility purpose that you could want when it comes to Gruul aggro, she's going to put in some work there for you. So she's a 3/4 with flash, double strike, vigilance, and haste, so all awesome keywords, and she gives your other creatures haste, which is important because werewolves can be kind of slow. There's not a lot of consistency. You can only expect the werewolves to transform. Giving them haste is very important. You can also pay 1 white mana, tap her to untap another target creature. This synergy is kind of there. I mean, there's some werewolves that can tap for mana, but otherwise it's not very useful. But compared to Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, which is the only werewolf legendary, she's actually a better commander for Werewolf Tribal. And also considering the fact that it's not just werewolves that this deck can synergize with, it's also going to synergize with humans and wolves especially. So let's start off the deck here with the lands. Just your typical mana fixing in Naya colors. You want to keep basic lands primarily in green-red, your mountains and your forests. We only really play one plains, and that's just for Kodama's Reach and Cultivate. We do play Kessig Wolf Run, going to pump up something and give it trample. We just dump a ton of mana into it and likely deal a lot of damage. We could even deal commander damage because Samut has double strike, and if we can get in there uncontested, that's pretty powerful. Then we have artifacts. We have your Soul Ring, Boros Signet, Gruul Signet, Celestia Signet, typical mana rocks in this type of deck. Felwar Stone, going to put in a lot of work depending on what your opponents have. And then we have Lifecrafter's Bestiary, which is actually a fantastic card in any creature-based deck in the format. Going to give you the scry in your upkeep, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you get to pay 1 green mana and draw a card, which is never a bad thing. The majority of this deck is creature spells anyway. Then we have some awesome artifacts here in the form of Neglected Heirloom, which transforms into Ashmouth Blade. Now, Neglected Heirloom transforms when the creature it's attached to is transforming. Ashmouth Blade gives it +3/+3 in first strike, which is pretty cool. But Ward of Bones is really what this deck does on the side, as opposed to just your typical creature-based beatdown deck. You also want to keep your opponents from casting spells. This is awesome because if you have less creatures than your opponents do, they can't cast creatures. If you have less artifacts, enchantments, lands than they do, they can't play those. So that's also a little theme to keep an eye out for as you look at this deck. It's going to be about slowing down your opponents so that our werewolves don't transform back into their human werewolf form. Now we move on to the flip creatures. A lot of names I have to remember here, guys, so I'm going to try to speed this up. I don't want this video to be too long. So we have Kessig Prowler, which transforms into Sinius Predator. Sinius Predator can't be blocked by 2 or more creatures, so in a way it's going to be able to beat out a lot of these tokens. That's pretty nice. Village Messenger has haste and can transform into a 2/2 that has menace, so that's pretty cool. Moonrise Intruder has the menace. And then we have Wolf Bitten Captive. You pay 2 mana to give it +2/+2 until end of turn. You can only do that once per turn though. And it can transform into Krallen Horde Killer, which has 4 mana to get +4/+4 until end of turn. You can only do that once per turn, so either way it's capable of pumping itself up. We have Duskwatch Recruiter, capable of giving us creatures off the top of our deck. That's pretty nice. And then it transforms into Krallen Horde Howler, which makes our creature spells cost 1 less, which is also fantastic. And then we have Kessig Forgemaster. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, deals 1 damage to that creature, flips into Flameheart Werewolf. Whenever that blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 2 damage to that creature. So if you transform it, you get to deal 2 damage, capable of running over a lot of tokens. Then we have Mayor of Averbrook. This is the guy I was talking about that could synergize with humans. It gives humans an anthem. However, when it flips, it gives werewolves and wolves anthems. So it's a little bit different, but kind of cool synergies there. Then we have Scorned Villager. Can tap to add green mana to our mana pool, and then can transform into Moonscarred Werewolf. With Vigilance, can tap to add 2 green mana to our mana pool, so it's definitely a little bit better, and the Vigilance means you can attack with it first and then tap for mana. You have Ulvenwald Captive, which flips into Ulvenwald Abomination. The Captive can tap for green mana, and then it can flip into something that can tap for 2 colorless mana. So it's definitely a good little mana dork there for this deck. Kind of interesting how the werewolves were the starting creature type and then they flipped into werewolf Eldrazi's. I think that was very interesting and definitely flavorful when you talk about bringing the Eldrazi to Innistrad. That was pretty cool. You have Breakneck Rider, which flips into Neckbreaker. I love the name there. When he flips, attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. So definitely a good way to encourage yourself to attack with more creatures. Then you have Conduit of Storms, which flips into Conduit of Emrakul. Whenever it attacks, you add 1 red mana to your mana pool at the beginning of the next main phase that turn. And when it flips, you pay mana to flip it, so it's not like the other werewolves that you have to wait for a certain amount of spells to be cast in order to flip it. It's basically the same thing, but instead of 1 red mana, it's 2 colorless mana instead. And it becomes a 5/4, so it's much bigger. Then we have Daybreak Ranger. Can tap to deal 2 damage to target creature with flying. When it flips into Nightfall Predator, you can pay 1 red mana and it fights target creature. So it's definitely good removal. Definitely the flip side is much better. Fighting is always pretty good removal when it comes to green. Then we have Gyre Reach Bandit. Has haste, and when it flips, it becomes Vildan Pack Alpha. Whenever you have a werewolf enter the battlefield under your control, you get to transform it. This is insanely powerful in this type of deck. The majority of our creatures are human werewolves that are going to transform. That's awesome. Then we have Hermit of Natternolls. Whenever an opponent casts a spell on your turn, you get to draw a card. And when it flips, it basically has the same exact thing, but instead of just 1, you draw 2 cards. So that's fantastic card draw. Then you have Cruin Outlaw. It's a 2/2 with first strike, and when it transforms, it becomes a 3/3 with double strike. And each werewolf you control can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. So it gives all your werewolves menace. That's fantastic. It's exactly what we want in this type of deck. We want to go for combat. Then we have Lambhole. Flips into a 4/5 Silver Pelt Werewolf. Whenever it would deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So it's kind of like one of those Coastal Piracy effects, but in green. That's very unique. Then we have Shrill Howler. Creatures with power less than Shrill Howler's power can't block it. So it's kind of like a reverse Skulk. You pay 6 to transform it into Howling Chorus. Same exact thing. Creatures with power less than it can't block it. And whenever it would deal combat damage to a player, you get a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token. Definitely not something we see a lot of. Then we have Afflicted Deserter. Flips into Werewolf Ransacker, which is awesome removal for artifacts. Destroys an artifact, and if it would be put into a graveyard, it deals 3 damage to that artifact's controller. So you want to kind of transform it as often as you can so you get more artifact removal. That's pretty cool, and it's definitely unexpected in this type of deck. Then we have Huntmaster of the Fells. Whenever it enters the battlefield or transforms into Huntmaster of the Fells, you get a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield and gain 2 life. So definitely going to be one of the better ones that you can get out there. When it transforms into Ravager of the Fells, comes a 4/4 with trample, and it can deal 2 damage to target opponent and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature that player controls. So definitely a little bit weaker when it flips, but when it flips back to Huntmaster, you get more value as far as commander goes. Then we have Instigator Gang. Attacking creatures you control get +1/+0, and when it flips into Wild Blood Pack, it becomes a 5/5 with trample, and attacking creatures you control get +3/+0. So this is definitely one of the better flip sides you can get once you get it out there. Just going to be trampling over your opponent's stuff. Your werewolves and other creatures are going to be massive. That's awesome. You have Mondronin Shaman. It flips into Tavalar's Mage Hunter, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, it deals 2 damage to that player. So definitely going to punish your opponents if they want to storm off or do anything like that. Definitely fantastic. And a 5/5 body, that's not bad either. And we have Smoldering Werewolf. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures, and you can transform it by paying 6 mana, and it transforms into Erupting Dreadwolf. Whenever it attacks, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So not too powerful, not a lot of damage being spread around, but it's definitely something to consider, especially if you're going up against tokens. I think that's awesome. Then we have Tangleclaw Werewolf. Can block an additional creature each combat, and you can pay 7 mana to transform it into Fibrous Entangler. It has Vigilance, and it must be blocked if able to, so you can just swing in there, force your opponents to block it with a lot of little creatures and kill them all. And it's the same thing as before. It can block an additional creature each combat. I think that's pretty cool. I like creatures that can block additional creatures. I think they're very underrated. Transforms into Uvenwald Primordials. You can pay 1 green mana to regenerate it. I think regenerate's pretty good in a combat-based deck. Not bad. A 5/5 body as well to go with it. I think that's awesome. Then we have Sage of Ancient Lore. Power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And he flips into Werewolf of Ancient Hunger. Vigilance and Trample. Power and toughness are equal to the total number of cards in all players' hands, so he becomes significantly bigger. So definitely one of the better werewolves you can get out there when it comes to power and toughness, can get pretty big. Then we have Ulrich of the Krallen Horde. He's the werewolf legendary I mentioned before. Whenever he enters the battlefield or transforms into Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. So very boring as a commander to just give +4/+4 with no other abilities. But it does transform into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha. You may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control. So a 6/6 fighting something else is pretty decent. In commander, it's not fantastic, but you can get rid of a lot of little stuff that has a huge impact in the game. So not terrible as one of the 99 like I said before, but not good enough to be a commander. And then we have Vilden Pack Outcast. Has trample and sort of a fire-breathing effect, however it's +1/-1, so he can only get so big. You can pay 7 mana to transform him into Drone Pack Kindred. Has trample still, but an actual fire-breathing effect, which is +1/+0 for each 1 mana you put into him. So actually pretty good value once you flip him. Pretty nasty-looking creature there. You get a huge trampler out there, that's pretty decent. And now we move on to the other creatures, the non-flip creatures. Aethersworn Canonist, actually going to put in some work in the deck. So hopefully our opponents aren't playing any big artifact deck, and we can stop them from playing any more than just one spell normally than they would, so that our werewolves stay transformed and they don't flip back into their weaker human forms. That's definitely a concern of this deck. And Aethersworn Canonist is a decent way to take advantage of the white that we can play with Samut. Eternal Witness is just good value. 3 mana, get a card back from your graveyard to your hand. Awesome card. Immer Wolf has Intimidate, so it's going to put in some work there. Other wolf and werewolf creatures you control get +1/+1, and non-human werewolves you control can't transform. This is another way that we can keep our werewolves from transforming, and they're also going to get an Anthem, so that's also pretty nice. But this is even better than Aethersworn Canonist because they don't transform if your opponents happen to have more artifacts. And then we have Silver Fur Partisan. Has trample, and whenever a wolf or werewolf you control becomes the target of an instant or sorcery spell, you get a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. Pretty good line of defense there. If your opponents try to Swords to Plowshare something you have, you get a 2/2 wolf out of the deal. I like that trade. Then we have Ulrich's Kindred. As a 4 mana activated ability, target attacking wolf or werewolf gains indestructible until end of turn. It's good for combat. And we have Master of the Wild Hunt. Can get us some more of these 2/2 wolves, and we tap all untapped wolves to have them all deal damage to a creature, and then that creature deals damage divided amongst however many wolves they want to kill. So it's a great way to ensure that you kill a creature that you don't like, and at the very worst you're going to lose some wolves, but still a pretty solid card. Then we have Wolfbriar Elemental. Depending on how many times we kick it, we get some more wolves. So it isn't just about werewolves or humans, it's about wolves as well. I think that's pretty cool. And then we have Kessig Cagebreakers. We get wolf tokens equal to the number of creature cards in our graveyard whenever it attacks. That's pretty good. Gonna get us some more wolf tokens, never a bad thing. Then we have Wolfir Silverheart. Again, another wolf, not a werewolf or human, but a wolf. And has a soul bond. It's gonna get +4/+4. Nothing really special, but +4/+4 in a combat-based deck that really has nothing else going for it when it comes to awesome keywords. Giving more power is never a bad thing. And we have some planeswalkers here. We have Arlen Cord. Can give a creature +2/+2 and vigilance and haste. Never really a bad thing, giving creatures good static abilities. And a little boost there with the +2/+2. 0 gives you a 2/2 green wolf, so kind of what a lot of the other cards in the deck do. And it transforms her into Arlen, Embraced by the Moon. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. That's her plus. That's kind of good. Not really like your typical overrun effect, but it can put in some work. Her minus deals 3 damage to target creature or player, so it lightning bolts, but it has to transform her back into Arlen Cord. And then her -6, her ult on the flip side, is you get an emblem with creatures you control, have haste, and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So very similar to something like a Phoenix God of Deception, but instead of milling cards, it's dealing damage equal to their power. That's incredible. So if you're able to get that off, I mean, wow. And then we have Samut the Tested. Can give up to 1 creature double strike until end of turn with her plus. So double strike's pretty good in the deck. Her -2 can deal 2 damage divided. I'm not a big fan of that, but her ult is where it's at because you get to search your library for up to 2 creatures and or planeswalker cards. So if you still have Arlen Court in your deck, you can potentially search her up. If not, you have 2 other creatures you can get. That's not a bad thing. I don't know if her value in the deck is super spectacular, but if you're going to play one Samut, might as well play the other. Then we move on to our enchantments. We have Full Moon's Rise. Definitely helps our werewolves, gives them a little boost there, gives them trample as well. So going to make it a little bit easier for our werewolves to get in, put some more damage in there, especially earlier on in the game. It's only a 2-mana enchantment. Then we have Sylvan Library, good card draw, going to give you the option of keeping more cards than you normally would at the cost of life. In Commander, that's usually a decent thing to give up. Hunting Grounds is hilarious if you have Threshold, which is 7 or more cards in your graveyard. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you get to put a creature card from your hand into play. So you don't have to pay the mana, you can just cheat something into play, all for just having Threshold. That's pretty awesome. Then we have Rule of Law, kind of to go with the Aethersworn Canonist. Players can't play more than 1 spell a turn, so it's going to make sure in some way, shape, or form that your werewolves aren't going to be transforming back into their weaker human forms, which is ideal for the deck because they're typical werewolves on the transform side. They're going to be better when it comes to combat, so that's not a bad thing. It's usually not going to hurt us too much because we're not a super aggressive deck, but if we get to keep our werewolves, it's better. Then we have Howlpack Resurgence. Going to give us a ton of these werewolves as long as our opponents have more than 4 cards in their hand. So yeah, any way that we can get more wolves or werewolves, anything like that, it's pretty nice. It's usually going to be wolf tokens, but it just goes with the flavor of the deck. Then we have Aura Shards because we don't have a ton of non-creature removal in the deck. So when we can get it off a creature ETB, that's pretty decent. And we have Curse of Exhaustion. Going to force one of our opponents, we can only really curse one of our opponents, and they can't play more than 1 spell a turn. So ideally what we want to do, we want to put this on the player who goes right before us. So that way we can ensure that they're not going to be casting more than 1 spell on the turn. And by doing that, our werewolves are going to either transform or stay on their werewolf side. So I think that's pretty good. Then we have Wolf Caller's Howl. Very similar to the other Full Moon's Rise. Going to help out our werewolves as well as our wolf creatures. A little bit of synergy there. This isn't an epic tribal deck. We don't have a lot of cards like Coat of Arms or anything like that. So cards like these are pretty decent. Then we have our sorceries and instants moving on here. We have Hull Breach, which is good. It's going to deal with an artifact or enchantment or both. For just 2 mana, it's good value. Cultivate and Kodama's Reach are basically the same card, and it's very important that we also just play 1 plains in here. We don't need to play any more than that. But if we ensure that we have that 1 source of white mana in the form of that 1 basic land, we have some other non-basics in here that provide white mana, but if we can ensure that we can search up that plane, the worst thing you can have on a deck like this is mana problems. Then we have Blasphemous Act because it's one of the best board wipes in Commander. 13 damage to each creature, likely going to be 1 red mana. Good value. Then we have our awesome instants, primarily going to be removal, Swords to Plowshares. We don't really need Path to Exile. We don't really want to run the risk of playing both of them because we don't play too much white sources. Hopefully we play enough to where we're able to pay for our Aethersworn Canonist, stuff like that. But we don't really need to overextend when it comes to white cards in the deck. Then we have Ancient Grudge. I love this card. I love it to death. Destroying an artifact and then flashing it back to destroy another artifact is hilarious, and it's pretty cheap. Moonlight Hunt. All your werewolf creatures are going to just slaughter this 1 creature. And it's a cool way. It's kind of like the werewolf way of fighting other creatures. This deck isn't going to be super competitive, guys. It's just meant to be casual. So the more flavorful cards that you have in a deck like this, the better. And hopefully we get a legendary one day that's actually flavorful. Moon Mist, same thing. Going to transform all of our human creatures into the werewolves, especially if you're having problems transforming them. If your opponents are playing all these spells, you can't get them to play no spells. Transforming them without having to wait, it's pretty decent. And then we finally play Krosan Grip because, hey, one of the best removal spells in the whole format, and it's in green, so you're capable of dealing with those pesky artifacts and enchantments at split second, stopping a lot of combos, always a necessity. Anyway, guys, wanted to thank Knight's Oath again for being an awesome patron. If you're curious about that, the link will be in the description box below. Samut, Voice of Dissent, is a very interesting option. At first, you might be a little confused, but then you realize, hey, when it comes to Gruul, which is what primarily the werewolves are, you can't really get too much better than Samut right now. I know Ulrich the Krallen Horde is technically flavorful, and it's better when it comes to, serving the flavor purpose, but when it comes to actually playing the deck and playing with werewolves, you'll find that having a creature that can give your other creatures haste is a little bit better. Especially with Flash, you're capable of speeding your deck up a little bit. I think that's definitely better. But yeah, the only downside is that she's not a werewolf, but that's about it. But there is no illusions here. I know werewolves are not super powerful in Commander, so please keep that in mind. This isn't a competitive deck for all intents and purposes. This is something you take to a casual group play and just have fun with it. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off.